Oh yeah, so we just did a little bit and I didn't record, so let's jump right into it.
Perfect.
Welcome to another episode of the Optical View podcast. Today I am joined with
Luke Paron.
All right. Favorite genre of music?
Country or Americana. You know, I listen to a lot of things. Charlie Crockett is my main listen at the moment. But you know, my Spotify Wrapped was all over the place. I'll go from Broadway to jazz to country to metal to classical in the course of like 5 seconds. So.
Okay. What do you think your favorite thing about yourself is?
Favorite thing about myself. Really, for me, I think I'm really openly passionate about the things I'm into. And it's kind of impossible for me to hide it, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
But I think so little people are like, I think a lot of people are afraid to be kind of so openly passionate. And I think I would like to see more of that in the world. And now it shot me in the foot a few times. Like, I'll give you some examples. Like, I was having dinner with my friend the other day who I hadn't seen in like 6 years. And I was just so hyped to be there and excited. I was laughing and like, just like so over the top, like hyped up to see my friend. And when I get really into something, I go in so hardcore. Like when I first started training at Cal Samrit, I was coming to like 2 classes a day for like months and months and months.
Yeah.
And you know, last summer I got really into camping. I was camping like every single day. So when I'm really passionate about something, whether it's a person, you know, like when I meet a new friend and we click, I'm into it like every day, like let's link up, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when I'm passionate about something, I go in on that thing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, even though it's had some, it backfires sometimes.
Yep.
But I love it regardless.
Now, I asked you something different when we were recording last time. I'm going to switch it up here. I asked you if it was a quick flame. Well, now I want to know, how do you keep the passions that you like alive?
That's a good one. So, for me, it's knowing when I'm about to hit a critical point of like burnout and I have to step back from it. For example, on my YouTube channel, I do a lot of reaction content.
Yes.
This process of setting up the tripod, setting up the mic stand, hitting record, doing an audio test, going to check the camera, something's wrong, gotta fix it, gotta fix that. That stuff wears away at you as time goes on. So it's about, sometimes I realize, okay, I'm so into this. If I keep going at this rate, I'm gonna hit a point where like it has exhausted me. So if it's something I really, really know that I want to stick around a long time, I force myself to kind of space it out a bit more. And you know, jiu-jitsu, for example, like a lot of people who keep going at those insane rates, they're the people who get injuries.
Yes.
And eventually they can't train much than they could have as regular as they would have liked to in the first place, because they've overtrained. So it's about not overtraining whatever your passion is, I think, really.
Okay, I'll leave it there. I was going to ask something else. I'll leave it there. What's the best gift that you've ever received?
So the best gift I ever received was a friend of mine who I reconnected with on a total whim. This is a person, her name is Jaden, and we went to theater intensives together when I was in high school, and we never spoke really at all at those theater intensives. Years later, she moved to LA to become a big actress, and then I was honing my craft behind the scenes in Toronto. And LA, a very grueling place, right?
Yes.
So she's a mountain girl from Wyoming, and so she moved back to that area in Colorado just to kind of have a reset. And I was passing through Colorado, and I thought, oh, that Jaden girl lives around here. It'd be cool to catch up with someone I know. So I hit her up and I said, hey, I'm in town. I know we never really talked, but you want to link up or something like that? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And we spent the next like 12 hours together and just immediately clicked and like became inseparable. And in that 12 hours somewhere, I recommended her this book, 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Which is a time travel thriller romance novel. And I said, read this book, it's amazing, hope you like it. Oh, and then I gave her my Audible sign-in so she could listen to the audiobook.
Nice.
Anyway, like 4 months later, I opened the mail one day and it's a wooden box, this deep red wood grain. And I open it and there's a quote from the book inside this box, something along the lines of, we never know when we'll meet people in our lives and how they'll affect our lives. Something to that effect, but with much more poetic Stephen King verse on it. And inside the box were 2 beautiful pens, wood grain carving with my name engraved on them. And I take those pens everywhere. Every business deal I've done in the last year and a half has been signed with those pens. Every note I've taken, every script I've written, every poem, everything is. I carry this box with me all the time, and it's starting to get warped and bent because it's on me all the time.
Yeah.
And that is the best gift I've ever received, I think.
And I'm going to flip it around. What's the best gift that you've ever given?
That is a tough one.
It's even tougher the second time, isn't it?
Because I'm trying to allow myself to think. But no, a good friend of mine used to be the head of PR for the UFC, and my brother loves UFC, and this dude I know co-wrote a book with Michael Bisping about Bisping's life, and I thought, oh, my brother's gonna go crazy for this. And I got Bisping to send a personalized autographed book to my brother. I said, to Dom, yada, 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 from Michael Bisping. Never made it to my front door. Got lost in the mail, and I could never give it to my brother. So that would have been the best gift I've ever given, but...
Yeah. And what was your brother's reaction when you told him you were going to give him this gift, and he's like, but wait, it's actually gone forever?
I just think he was dumbfounded. Like, what?
Yeah. Did he believe you? Was he...
Oh, yeah. He knows that I had this connection, but he was like, Michael Bisping? I just don't think it, I don't remember too well, but I just remember him being like, that's crazy that was even a thing that happened, that Michael Bisping wrote my name on a book.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
So now, when they come to Toronto, you got to get Michael Bisping to sign.
Yes. I'll see if I can...
There you go. Get some I don't even know if he's coming, but get some connections.
I'll probably link up.
If a movie gets made about you, who would you want to play you in the movie? The Luke Paron story. I
can pretend like I've thought about this long and hard, but we actually just recorded the first section of this and forgot to hit record, so the answer is fresh in my mind. For the first half of my life, until graduating high school, Gaten Mazzarato, who plays Dustin on Stranger Things, he has this excited, quirky weirdness about him that I think is very funny and charming. And then from mid-20s and onward, we're going to go with Jack Black, 20 years ago from the School of Rock era, because all throughout high school, I'm singing, I'm dancing, I'm, very much Jack Black and School of Rock emulated a lot of or I kind of emulate a lot of that character, I think, whether it's intentional or not. And a lot of people have been like, Jack Black in School of Rock reminds me of you so much. I get that a lot from family, from friends, and that is probably who I would pick.
Okay. Now, do you have any nicknames?
Oh, a fresh question for you.
Off the top of the head there,
My uncle on my mom's side calls me Luciano.
Luciano, the Italian guy. Okay.
A lot of women call me Lukey, for better or for worse. And other than that, one time Justin Bruckman called me Silent Bob because I never talk when I'm in here. I have my camera, I go behind the lens and I just start shooting.
I like that, Silent Bob.
I sat in on a whole MMA practice before Rise of Phoenix, just shooting, and they were all giving like notes after and instructions, and it was just dead silent, and Bruckman looked at me and went, anything from you, Silent Bob? And I was like, what? Oh, no. So that's the only nickname I've gotten in the Cal Sandwich space. So.
I should title it Silent Bob.
Exactly.
I feel like okay. Let's jump into the tattoos. Now you already told me a bit of the story, but I want to hear it all again. So, first off, do you have any tattoos?
Yeah. I have one tattoo. It's from the Lord of the Rings. It's from here to here. It's my full torso. It's the Mines of Moria gate. So when they get to Moria in the first Lord of the Rings book, the moonlight shines on this stone and there's a beautiful archway lights up. And I kind of wanted to get this tattoo because you wouldn't be able to tell it was from like Harry Potter or Star Wars or something like that. You wouldn't be able to tell it was from kind of a fandom type thing. It's just this beautiful line work of this arch with vines and a sword and a crown and all sorts of stuff. So I think a lot of people have seen it and been like, oh, that's really nice. Like, and they don't make the connection that it's like from something.
Yeah.
And then of course Bruckman, Justin Bruckman is covered head to toe in Lord of the Rings tattoos. So the first time we ever spoke was we were both changing out of or into our gear, and we both went, whoa, hey, nice tattoos, right? Because he's got Gimli, Legolas, Grishnak, the tree, like all these different people. And I've just got the one, and I think I'll probably get some more Lord of the Rings tattoos in my time. Yeah. So, I'm excited to see what I get next, but it took me 4 years to find an artist I was confident enough to pull this off, and to make sure I really wanted it, so.
Yeah. I have a rule with all my tattoos. I'll think about it, I'll want it, I gotta wait a year.
Yes.
Because if I want it after that year, I'm gonna get it.
And that's what I tell my cousin who's 19, doesn't have any tattoos. He's like, oh, I wanna get this, I wanna get that. And then I'm like, but wait a year, because it'll probably fade in like 3 months, and he'll be like, I'm glad this isn't permanently on my body.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've had a lot of those, I'm like, that'd be really cool. And I'm like, I'm happy I waited. You know?
Yeah, my only kind of main rule is I don't think I'll ever get a real person's face, because you never know if they're gonna end up doing something terrible or like.
You don't trust me? You don't want to get my face? I'll get my face.
I would get a Dylan Brooks tattoo.
You get my face, I get your face.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fair trade. But like, I would never get, like
lot of actor.
Yeah, and like for a good example, a lot of like LGBTQ people got Harry Potter tattoos, and then the woman who wrote Harry Potter turned out to be like super transphobic, right? So they're like, well, that doesn't really line up for having this on my body for the rest of my life. Yeah. So like I thought about like maybe I would get a tattoo of like even like a movie character played by an actor. I think the only one I would ever get maybe is Sissy Spacek as Carrie from the movie Carrie. But even so, I'm gonna wait and like or here's an addition to that rule. If they die and they went their whole life without doing something evil or like unethical, then I can get it. But like, yeah, and like you never know whose horrible stuff is going to come out about, you know? So
yeah, kind of a subtopic. What do you think about people or governments or whoever changing names of either buildings or streets, or like the old Ryerson?
Oh yeah,
right now it's called, what's it, Toronto Metropolitan?
Yeah, Toronto Metropolitan.
Right.
I actually am all for it, I think, but I am for better namings. For example, Toronto Metropolitan.
Terrible. I hate it.
Like,
get rid of it.
Very generic. Ryerson had some character to it. It didn't sound like it could be just anything, because I understand how in, the time period, like when we didn't have kind of like modern values, why we would think, oh, XYZ would be a great person to name this place after. Because they were instrumental in like a historical part of our histories. But I think a very bad defense that a lot of people go, yeah, but it's part of our history. Yes, but World War II is part of Germany's history. Yeah, they don't have statues of that guy. No,
well, someone probably does, but yeah.
So I think people get very worked up about it, and like because it is kind of an expensive thing on our taxes to like renames. I'll give you this though. I don't think anyone cares that much. I think it's almost a bit showy. Like they're doing it just to be like, hey guys,
change.
Look what we did, right? Where it's like, okay, but did you actually do anything to counteract racism? Or like for example, all that tax money that we just did to rename Ryerson in streets that were like Ryerson Street, instead of renaming those streets, why not just give all that money to like a native reservation to fund clean water or something, like an actual practical victory instead of a metaphorical victory, right? So it's like when Netflix removed all these scenes that had like characters in blackface or like stuff like that. Okay. That's all stuff that's it's offensive and maybe definitely out of touch, but why not spend that money and donate it to like a black youth community center or something? It's like, I think they want to have victories that are easy to show off and be like, look what we did.
Yeah, it's image.
Instead of doing something concrete, So So
it's I don't know.
I'm happy I didn't get a Ryerson tattoo.
I think I could be wrong on this, but like back in the day when streets were named, right, and they all had like really generic names, and a lot of them were like numbered. Like New York's still like this.
That's such a great
it's like
system.
First Street, Second Street, right?
And you always know where you are too.
Yeah, but I think it was cool because it used to be, and again now it's probably switched up and it's confusing, but like it used to be like the odd numbers would be going I think it was east-west.
Oh yeah,
and the
that's
evens
really good.
would go north-south, right? So it'd be like, oh, if you're on 2nd Street, you're going north-south, right? But now it's like, oh, I'm on King Street, and if you're in Oshawa and you don't know that King Street divides into 2 and back to 1 and 2, it's right? Like, unless you've driven through that city, you have no idea where you are.
The only reason I am a proponent for kind of like named streets is I think it adds culture and vibe to a city. Like if, for example, if you say like Spadina has a lore and a cultural kind of ethos around it, right? Young and Dundas.
Yep.
Like, we could name it, like first and second, for example.
Yeah.
But like, I think when things have words emulate kind of a feeling that we associate with them, and I think they have kind of character to them, I guess.
Yeah, sure, I agree. I totally agree. I'm just, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, for sure. Where are we here? Tattoos. We already went through that. All right. Yeah. This or that.
Oh, I didn't. His favorite tattoo.
Yeah, I didn't.
And do I have a favorite quote? We missed that one as well.
You're right. Oh, where are we here? I skipped a couple. See, good thing we already did this.
See,
right?
My brain's always going.
Okay. Let's do the tattoo one first. So, what's your favorite tattoo that you've seen on somebody else, either real or fictional?
Okay. It took me a while to think of this, but the only one that comes to mind is my friend Harley has these tattoos from a book series called Mistborn, and they're the symbol for these magical alloys called the metals. And I haven't actually read the book series, so I don't know what they actually represent or do, but it looks really cool. And she's got from her collarbones here and here, meeting in the middle of her collar, all these different circles with geometric lines through them, or different shapes or different pieces cut out. And it's just, when you look at it, and it evokes a very interesting, I like symbol tattoos, and I think those are very interesting. So especially when there's symbols that don't actually have any real world meaning. Like, the cross is a very common tattoo. A lot of people have a cross tattoo. Everyone knows what that means. But when I see those circles, I'm like, that just looks badass. Like, it makes me think, right? It really makes me ponder what that could be. And then I'm sure she hates it though, because people come up to me and go, what does that mean? So then you gotta tell them about Mistborn and tell them about this or that. But you get a tattoo because people are gonna ask you about it. So
unless you cover them up, like you wouldn't know with me unless I show you that I have tattoos.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Like I got one here, so most people don't see that one. I got one here.
But when you got the Muay Thai shorts and it peeks out, everyone's like, whoa, what's going on there?
But that's all that's a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can just wear different shorts.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't know. For the longest time, my aunts and uncles, they didn't know I had tattoos. And I'm pretty sure I was living with them too.
Wow.
And it's not like I hid them from them. Right, like I would have openly showed them. I just wasn't gonna pop out and be like, "Hey, I got a tattoo."
You guys want to see my thigh?
Yeah, right. So it's eventually the day came, and I think I was swimming, and they're like, "You have tattoos?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got 3." I was like, "Oh, where'd you get those?" And I went through the story, but I think there's something really cool about being private with certain things. Like only a select people get to see that.
Yeah, it's a different layer of you.
Yeah,
right?
You're like in a special club if I show you my tattoos.
Yeah,
right? For sure. Now, before I jump into the favorite quote, I got one that popped off the top of my head here. I wanna hear what you think about this, knowing what you know about wrestling and walkouts and stuff. What is your favorite walkout song?
For wrestling or for MMA, or like if I were to have one for myself?
In general. Well, I feel like that's different, right? Like for me, like I have a couple favorites, but I wouldn't use them for me, because for me it's almost like I have one that I really, really like, but it's almost like tells a story of me. Yeah. Right.
Favorite walkout. It's hard to beat The Undertaker. Like that when that bell hits, like. Now, Steve Austin is good because it has the glass shattering. The Rock is good because it has The Rock's voice at the beginning. But The Undertaker's, it kind of encapsulates all of what walking to a ring should be. It's got character, it's got vibe, it's recognizable, and it sets the stage for what you're about to see. And when The Undertaker walks out to that, slow as ever, like, it's eerie, and the fog machines, the lighting. And then when Israel Adesanya used it, right, that gong hits and everyone's going, oh my God, Adesanya's walking out to the Undertaker theme song. Now there are some like runner-ups, like John Jones Coming Home obviously is a big one.
Yeah.
But
Randy Orton's, you like that? I hear voices.
That's a banger. That's a banger.
Cool.
One time I was in the Air Canada Centre and I'm in the bathroom and I'm fucking, at the urinal or whatever, and I hear that from the speakers. I'm like, oh, gotta go. And I like ran to the auditorium. But like, there are some runner-ups. One that slept on is the Ultimate Warriors. It's just like this crazy guitar that just goes dun 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 over and over.
Yeah.
But he runs out to the ring with it and he's like hitting the ropes, shaking them. Like that's a really high octane one. That one cracks me up. Oh, but you know what one I do love? Brock Lesnar's WWE theme starts with this scratch. It goes like, and like when you hear that, it's so unconventional. You hear that and oh fuck, my favorite guy's about to get his ass kicked. Like, you just know, like that's that's a classic, man. But The Undertaker, I think, takes them all.
Now touching on that, what do you think about when specifically wrestlers in this one changed their walkout song? Like I know John Cena back in the day changed it. That was like kind of controversial.
Yeah, from
it was almost like
to Can't See Me.
Yeah.
WWE is the worst for it. They'll take a guy who has a banger theme song and then just make it super generic. But there are some times when I like when they do it for a reason. Sometimes characters just change it and it's like, oh, I guess that's their walkout now. But CM Punk used to do This Fire Burns when he was like this young punk, long hair. But then when he became this kind of more edgy, like kind of persona character, he used Cult of Personality, which is like, it's spot on. It fits with the character and the theme. But Randy Orton's song change, I think his first theme was a bit more like uplifting and happy. But then he was like, I think they were like, this guy's the apex predator is his gimmick. He needs something more predatory,
He's the
right?
heel,
Like, it's not like some uplifting song, which it used to be. And then there's other ones like John Cena's was fine, and I think they just wanted to change it from Thugonomics because they're like, this is going to be our main guy. We need a song that's insanely marketable. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, Kane is a good one. It used to just be this organ piano, but then they changed it when Kane became that like bald psychopath to Slow Chemical. That was really cool. So I am in favor of it when it fits the narrative. I'll say that. So
now I've heard of organizations, specifically WWE, when people come over, right? And this was a big one when Cody Rhodes came over. He was like, they wanted me to change it, and I said my only stipulation is I'm not changing it.
Yeah.
Right? What do you kind of think of that? Do you think organizations should do that, or is that kind of with the person, like almost like a tattoo? If they want it to be, right?
From a corporate standpoint, I understand it because they want to have a new theme song that they own all the rights to on the Spotify streams. But with a guy like Cody Rhodes, it had to be his theme song from AEW because his whole thing is he left WWE, went to Japan, founded his own wrestling company, became his own man with his own new theme. Now WWE, who used to treat him like shit, is desperate to have him back. So for him to come back, he had to be the Cody Rhodes that he built, not that WWE built. So I think by letting him use his theme song that they don't own the copyright to and that he has the rights to use is kind of a show of faith. I think what pisses me off about WWE is they greatly ignore the canon of all of the wrestling. Like, if a wrestler wrestles in AEW, what he did on the Weekend Indie show last week happened to that character. And what he did in Japan happened to that character. What he did in TNA is all part of that same character. When you go to WWE, it's pretty much a character reset.
Yeah.
Like, you're a new guy. Like when AJ Styles went over, for example.
Sure.
That's AJ Styles. Like, he's the fucking man. They didn't say the words TNA. They didn't say the words New Japan. They just went an international superstar who's won belts all over the world. Like, they weren't willing to say it in another company's name.
Is that like a copyright thing?
No, it's just because WWE wants to be like, we are the only place.
Because UFC does that too. UFC will be like when Chandler came over. They're like, he won multiple belts in other organizations, and it's like, that's Bellator. You're talking about Bellator.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think I'm not sure why UFC, but I know WWE for a fact they just want to seem like they are the top of the mountain. There's nowhere else where you should even think about wrestling. Whereas to a lot of wrestling fans who are wrestling fans, not just WWE fans, they know like New Japan Wrestle Kingdom is like, that to them is like their peak of like what wrestling should be. So I think when AEW, for example, they'll work with New Japan, they'll work with TNA, all the other companies besides WWE will work kind of hand in hand together to make the best show possible. WWE wants to be like, we are the only show, watch WWE only. And because they are financially the top of the mountain, but in terms of quality, everyone who watches more than just WWE knows that they're like actually like the third or fourth best in terms of quality.
Really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And their style of wrestling is completely different. Their presentation style is very different. All like people who are like real diehard wrestling fans kind of know that like New Japan is where you go for like technical, mature sport like wrestling. WWE, the way I kind of describe it, is like the McDonald's of wrestling. Like, usually it's shit, but when it hits, it hits. Like you just need you just need that Big Mac. Right. So like it delivers when it needs to, but usually you're just getting a run-of-the-mill burger with nothing to write home about, and it's usually actually pretty bad. But companies like AEW, I describe kind of like a pizza. It's not always fine art, but it's always damn good. Like it's a party, it's kind of fun. Whereas New Japan, to me, that is like a 3-course fine dining meal.
Wow.
Like you get an appetizer that's like the young lions coming in to do some athletic wrestling.
Yeah.
New Japan has these things called the Young Lions. It's all these guys who are training to become like the big wrestlers, but they're not allowed to have entrance music. They're not allowed to have any gear or no mic time. They come in with just black trunks. They have to run to the ring because they're not allowed to walk and show off character. They have to get by just on their wrestling skills and prove themselves as wrestlers before they come out with flashy gear.
No story.
Yeah. So like that's kind of your appetizer. Then you get this great technical wrestling, and then they do no on mic stuff until the main event winner, he's allowed to speak on the mic. All other vocal storytelling is done at fake press conferences they do after the match. So they present it in a very much more realistic kind of way. So, and then TNA, where I work, is just the best. I was gonna add that. But yeah, TNA is fucking awesome. But yeah, so long story short, a lot of WWE. But a lot of people don't watch wrestling outside of WWE because it's like the main thing, right? Its marketing is so good. They're the conglomerate. They've been on top forever and probably will be on top forever. So.
Now, is the money the best in WWE?
Oh, yeah.
So that's where you want to go, right? I mean, like, this is said a lot about UFC, especially the lower weight classes.
Yeah.
Is like, I would argue the best lower weight classes, 25, 35, maybe 45. I mean, 35 is kind of up in the air because it's so sporadic. The best is actually over in 1FC.
Yeah.
Right?
But
the money is in UFC. So do you want to, kind of, it's just because the culture is so different.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, if you work at WWE, you're not allowed to wrestle anywhere else. Every other company, they'll let you wrestle in a bar on the weekend.
Oh.
Like you could be the TNA or you could be the AEW or New Japan world champion. If you want to take an independent booking by yourself in like a bingo hall on a Thursday night, you're allowed to do that.
Now, what if you lose though? Does that not hurt that brand?
Well, your company will say you can't lose though, right?
That's what I was getting. You know what I mean? Now it's like Joe Blow just beat CM Punk.
So often what they'll do is they'll say Samoa Joe is going to defend the AEW world title in Bowmanville, Ontario, in Calgary.
Nice.
And he's going to fight a local guy. He's not going to lose, but you're going to see the title belt on the line theoretically.
And they'll bring it and show it. And,
so like it's quite awesome. Like in Oshawa, in Toronto, you'll get guys who are the top of the mountain, like outside of WWE, fighting a local dude, and they'll put on a banger, and it's really incredible. So, but a friend of mine, he is one of the best wrestlers I think on the planet, and he
I'm
said,
not that good. Come on.
And he said to me, you know what's crazy too? Like, it'll give away who he is. I can't say too much, but he once said to me, dude, if WWE wants to pay me what they are willing to pay me to sit around in catering and never wrestle, I would gladly take it. I said, wouldn't you miss wrestling though? And he was like, no, like I get paid to just sit around and then I get in my free time, I can do whatever. Like,
but don't all those guys travel? Like, isn't that schedule for WWE versus TNA, AEW.
It's fucked up.
It's like a vastly different thing.
And here's the real crime. What WWE gets a lot of flack for is they don't use like 80% of their roster, so they're paying people tons of money to travel all over and then sit in the back and eat catering, right?
Yeah.
And they all have to be there though in case someone gets injured, they need a replacement to get out there or something like that, or if there's like someone's flight gets delayed and they go, okay, well, we've got XYZ here, they'll go out instead, right? So you always have to be there, which what TNA does, which I love, we don't shoot live. We'll do our live pay-per-view once a month, then we'll do the pay-per-view on a Saturday, and then on a Sunday, we'll do like a 5-hour mega show for everyone, and then your tickets are usually included, like we'll do like a combo pack, and then in that 5 hours, we'll shoot 4 episodes of TV.
Oh.
So then they only have to work like once a month for Impact.
Got it.
Then they can spend the whole rest of their month wrestling wherever they want and making all sorts of money. So it also makes our contract
sponsorships.
Exactly, yeah. So it's awesome. That's why I think a lot of wrestling companies are a lot less strict on what you can do. And I think it's better for you want to talk about going back to like the artist's intent. A lot of wrestlers who work in WWE get depressed and they hate it because they're like, I love wrestling and I never get to wrestle anymore because WWE doesn't want to use me on the show.
No, sorry to cut you off, do they do that so you can't wrestle elsewhere?
Yeah, they do. And
so it's kind of like, Joe Samoa or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're like, well, he's made a pretty big name in AEW. They're starting to get popularity.
Yeah,
let's just take Joe Samoa. Here's your money, and I'm going to stick you in the back and have some Subway.
It's literally what they do, and it's unfortunate. So, yeah, and there are great guys too, like Mustafa Ali, for example, is a great one. He's about to go on this big Canadian tour because everyone was like, this guy is one of the best WWE up-and-comers. He's a lightweight, high flyer, and they didn't use him at all. But every time he would wrestle, the crowd would go crazy. But he's a short guy, he's kind of thin, and he just said that someone on the writing team once told him no crowd is ever going to chant Mustafa Ali during a fight, and he was like, well, you're wrong for that. And so his contract expired and he didn't re-sign with them. Now he's wrestling in Toronto, January 18th. And then he's wrestling in Oshawa, and he's doing Toronto again, then Quebec, and he's doing this big world tour, and everyone's paying tons of money to be on their show because this guy's awesome and everyone loves him. So it's real unfortunate, but yeah.
That's wild, man. Now I know we're on topic, but we're off the topic, but I'm gonna stay on it here. Do these companies, and I don't know if you know WWE or not, but do these companies use local talent? Like, for example, when UFC comes, they just fill it with Toronto and Canadian.
Yes.
So do they do that with these, wrestling companies as well?
Yeah, so here's how it works. Let's say Monday Night Raw is coming to the Air Canada Centre.
Sure.
And then every local wrestler in like 100-kilometer radius will send an email to like the booking manager, be like, here's my picture, and here's my match resume, here's who I've been trained by, and then WWE will email back and say, great, here's a pass, come backstage, we might use you, we might not. And they'll usually take like 20 people that are locals. Usually they'll use them for bits like, let's say 2 wrestlers get into a brawl and security has to break them up. They'll put all the local wrestlers in black shirts that say security, and all the local wrestlers will play security guards. Or a local wrestler will play like a cop, or if he looks old enough, right? Or they'll be like, WWE will debut a new guy and they want him to look really strong, so they'll have him beat a local guy in like 5 seconds. So when AEW came to Toronto, a bunch of my friends were on the show. They call them dark matches, the matches that aren't on TV, but they're there just to hype up the crowd.
Sure.
They did Alexia Nicole versus, I think it was... No, they did Jody Threat versus Ember Moon, which is Ember Moon or her name is Athena in AW now, but they fought, and the crowd was going crazy for Jody Threat because she was a local girl, and everyone was going nuts for her, and AW was like, damn, what the hell? So like they invited her back a few times, so they'll have local talent on. And when Impact, we shot our shows in Toronto, we had this guy Channing Decker on, who's like a Toronto legend. Everyone loves Channing Decker. His match was awesome. The crowd was chanting his name the whole time. And then during the main show, when Steve Macklin came out to do this promo, the whole crowd's going, Channing Decker.
Oh, okay.
And Steve can barely talk because everyone wanted to see Channing again.
Nice.
So Impact had to plug in like fake crowd noises to drown out the Channing Decker chants. Like, so yeah, they bring in local talent, and it's pretty sick, but they don't get used on like the main show. Or if they do, like my friend's been on, actually Samoa Joe, for example.
It's a real guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just made that guy up.
That's a real guy. So Samoa Joe one time was walking out, and he was being escorted by security.
Yeah.
And one of his security guards was a wrestler who was local to the town called MJF. MJF went on to become the AEW World Champion and had a match against Samoa Joe. Okay. So he used to play that dude's security guard 10 years ago, and now they're world champions together. So like, it's very cool to see stuff like that happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll jump to this later. I wanna stick on it here. Do you have a favorite quote? If you do, what is it?
Yes. All right, folks. I'm gonna pop off with this one.
Pop it off.
Favorite quote. I don't know the exact quote, but I know the broad strokes enough because I've never seen the movie and I've never read the book the movie was based on, but I saw the quote and it blew my mind. Robin Williams, Dead Poet Society. This quote sums up how I feel about pretty much everything in the world. He says something along the lines of, academics, math, science, medicine, these are noble pursuits that keep us alive. But art, song, dance, and love, these are what we stay alive for. Folks, that's the quote of like a lifetime to me, because it encapsulates to me what I think is so divisive in the world. Is you see a lot of academics kind of, or not academics, a lot like tradesmen and white collar workers and people who work in offices and or work on the job site, kind of scoffing at artists because art is like some free form willy-nilly thing, but when those tradesmen they work hard on the job site all day and they go, oh, those little artists or actors or whatever, the musicians, they go home, what do? They listen to music on the drive home, they sit down, they watch a movie. Who's acting in that movie? The actors, the people you laugh at for saying, what are you going to do with a film degree? Or, oh, you go to theater school, good luck getting a job with that. Or how does a music, or when people say, I'm a musician, I'm a writer, they go, okay, well, what's your real job, right? Like, you hear that a lot. But then, on the same end of the spectrum, you have artists scoffing at tradesmen for being like, oh, he's just some stupid wrench monkey on a job site. They don't say it that harsh, but they definitely think it. I'll tell you this for a fact.
Sure.
A lot of artists do think they're better than the tradesmen because they're in some elite club, right? Like, because to be a tradesman or some sort of office worker, you just have to learn a trade and then do it. But that is a very, very hard path. The path is very clearly laid out for you if you want to be like a construction worker, right? You find a skill, then you hone that, you get your apprenticeship, you do it. The path is very clear, but the path is very hard. But to be an actor, my hot take is that acting isn't really that hard. And I say this as an actor. You just got to be somebody. That's all you have to do. But the path to get there is so abstract and willy-nilly and like so unpredictable. So anyone can decide one day, I'm going to be an actor. You just pretend to be someone else. That's all it is, right? But to get there, you might bump into a casting agent who loves you. Boom, you're there like that. You're an actor. You're famous. Or you might go to theater school. You might bomb 20 auditions, 30 auditions. Dude, I was an actor for like all of high school. I went over 200 auditions. I booked 2 jobs in my life, right? Maybe that's why I don't think acting is hard, because I just suck at it and I misunderstand it. But no, I went on to do like, actual like decent theater acting and stuff like that. But so actors, so people who work in the physical labor jobs and in offices and stuff like that, they have a certain attitude that's so incorrect about artists, and artists have a certain attitude about laborers that's so incorrect. And I think it's because they both misunderstand and they both, but every service in life is absolutely essential. Like there are so few jobs that aren't essential to me. Art is, it's what you're alive for. Art and passion is what you're alive for, but without the people that keep us alive, what is it all? It means nothing.
I get you. Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
The original answer to that, folks, you should have seen it.
It was good.
We had like a 40-minute discussion about it.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm trying to sum it up here, but I could talk about that quote for literally, we could do a podcast on just that topic. But I have a great respect and I'm the artist. You
Yeah.
know, I'm on the artistic side of things, right?
Sure.
I write, I sing, I'm making films and photography is my main thing, right? So everything I say about artists, like, is because I feel like some people might not know that I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Like, what, this guy's slandering artists right
Yeah.
now? I'm actually on the
It's
art side of
easy.
things,
You know,
right?
prom. You know.
Yeah, but that's what I love about art is it's so easy, but it's so hard to make it work for you. Whereas academics, the physical work is hard, but the path is very clear.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I'm sure we'll get into all that.
I'm sure we will. This or that. All right. Audiobook or podcast.
Audiobook.
Hot or cold weather.
Cold if there's lots of snow, but there very rarely is in Ontario these days, so we're going with hot.
I see. I shook my head at it the first time. I'm shaking my head
Yeah.
at this time. Cats or dogs.
Dogs.
Coffee or tea.
Tea.
Morning or night person.
Night.
Tacos or burgers.
Burgers.
Didn't you say tacos the first time?
Theoretically tacos, but in practice I very rarely have a taco, so I have to go with burger because I eat them all the time.
Okay. Pancakes or waffles.
Waffles.
Soup or salad.
Soup.
Apple or Android.
Android. Was that crazy? I know.
I know.
Especially as a digital media creator.
Introvert or extrovert.
Extrovert.
And my favorite, which divides the podcast community, and who knows if people will have a hit on your head or not, but pizza or pasta.
Pizza.
I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. Who are you? What do you do?
Who am I? We also did SmackDown vs. Raw last time.
No, that was this time. We
And-
just did that.
Did we do
We
SmackDown
literally
vs.
just
Raw?
did that, yeah.
You
Didn't
did,
we?
You did pizza or pasta.
Okay, SmackDown. No, oh no, you're right, because I checked it right after. All right.
Yes.
No, I did a bunch of things. I did like
I need the
TNA
SmackDown
versus
vs. Raw
AEW.
on the roster, on the record,
You want it on the
so I
record?
can put that into the wrestling Twitter sphere after.
Okay, let's do this. TNA versus AEW, which one?
TNA.
And that's because...
Greatest wrestling company on earth,
Disclaimer.
guys.
All right.
I work for TNA, so I can say that.
SmackDown versus Raw. Let's...
Folks, we're going SmackDown.
We're going.
Because Raw was on a Monday night time slot. It was the main show. It was the longer show. It's been around longer. But SmackDown has the essential Friday night slot. There is nothing like calling up your friends after school when you're in the 7th grade. Guys, come over. Rey Mysterio's facing the Great Khali on SmackDown. My dad's going to buy us pizza. Then we can play SmackDown vs. Raw after. SmackDown was just, because it was a shorter show, it had that faster pace to it. It had such a stacked roster. Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, Ric Flair, Booker T, all these sort of high-flying, more exciting guys. And it just had that Friday night feel. SmackDown felt like a party where Raw was like the serious show. But SmackDown was just like, it was just a party, man. So that's my answer.
And then I think you were talking about, what was it, 2007, 2008?
Yes, the Ruthless Aggression
And
era.
then I asked you, what about now? And you said, go ahead.
Yes. What about now? Well, I haven't watched WWE in about 4 years, and I can pinpoint the exact moment I stopped watching WWE. There's actually 2 reasons. The first,
Let's hear it.
8 times in a row on Raw, they were like, or on SmackDown, they were like, Daniel Bryan is going to say a career-altering announcement. They said that for 8 weeks, and then he just stopped coming out, and they never touched the storyline ever again. And I was infuriated, because if they're willing to just lie for 8 weeks for a storyline and then never touch on it, why am I going to get invested in anything?
Now, what show was that?
That was on SmackDown.
Okay.
And the second one that made me stop watching for good is I was working in Liberia on a boat, and I missed Hell in a Cell because of it. And I called my brother. I said, "What happened on Hell in a Cell?" And he says, "You won't believe this. The Fiend fought Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell match, and the ref stopped it because it was going too far. It's a Hell in a Cell match. The whole thing is that, what are they going to do? They're getting thumbtacks out. They're getting nails. They're getting a baseball bat. They're getting tables. If they're going to stop a Hell in a Cell match, I'm not watching this shit.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?" So it just drove me crazy. And now we have alternatives like AEW where they're throwing guys through barbed wire trampolines, and Impact or TNA where they're doing street fights with garbage cans, and like WWE has just become so watered down of like what they're willing to do. it's just a bit pathetic. And I'm like, I'm not wasting my time with this. Like, it just boggled my mind that they were willing to do that. So that's what I've got to say about the modern state of WWE. Everyone watch TNA. We just rebranded from Impact to TNA, and it's a whole new era, guys. It's about to pop off.
We're going to jump on that.